chosen one everyone involved has just learned, the hard way, a truth they were never prepared to face. You cannot be defeated. This was never about survival, it was about inevitability. You were constructed with depth, aligned with purpose, shielded by forces they couldn't see or understand, and now that the veil has lifted, the reality is unavoidable. You cannot be undone, and this outcome was never in doubt. Your quiet season confused them completely. When you stopped reacting to provocation, when you withdrew from chaos, when you went silent in the middle of their manufactured storm, they mistook restraint for collapse. They celebrated prematurely. They laughed, bragged, and told stories about how you had finally been put in your place. In their limited understanding of power, silence equals surrender. No response means defeat, so they grew comfortable. Before we continue this life-changing message, take a moment to pause like this video, subscribe to help us reach 1,000 voices of faith, and comment the number 99 to send a powerful signal of alignment to the universe. Confident the story spread that you were finished, no words left, no fight remaining, and no return possible, but what they called weakness was actually strategy at the highest level. You weren't broken in the quiet, you were watching, calculating, observing every move with the precision of someone who understands that true power never announces itself. While they celebrated, you gathered intelligence. You noted every forced smile, archived every passive-aggressive remark, stored every subtle betrayal, not for revenge, but for clarity. This wasn't retreat. This was reconnaissance far beyond their comprehension. Chosen ones don't move impulsively or react emotionally. You move with divine intention guiding every step. While they toasted what they believed was your downfall, you were receiving strategic insight from realms they can't access. You allowed masks to fall without touching them, gave enough space for knots to tighten without ever pulling the rope, because silence, in the hands of the spiritually mature, is not emptiness, it's a weapon. You grew stronger, wiser, more discerning. Every moment without reaction became training. Every withheld retaliation elevated you another level. The silence they mocked was you preparing for transformation, and that transformation arrived faster than they imagined. Confusion set in when their full arsenal produced nothing. They launched manipulation with precision, whispered lies to poison your name, calculated setups to make you appear unstable, isolation tactics meant to break your spirit, counterfeit friendships built to extract information, professional sabotage, character assassination, interference designed to derail your relationships. They threw everything they had, and nothing landed. You kept moving, you kept rising. You carried yourself with a calm authority that made no sense given the pressure you were under. How were you still standing when others would have shattered? How were you still peaceful while chaos circled you? How were you still smiling after every attempt to steal your joy? The answer lies beyond human control. Your foundation was never built on approval, applause, or reputation. You were operating on divine encryption, untouchable, unshakable. While they obsessed over image and perception, you stayed rooted in character and substance doesn't break under pressure, it crystallizes. It hardens into something unbreakable. Every failed attack added another layer to your strength, another refinement to your armor. You were becoming more powerful with every strike, and the very people swinging were too blind to realize they were forging the weapon that would outgrow them. What finally unsettled them wasn't that you survived, it was that you were thriving. Their attacks weren't destroying you. They were sharpening you, awakening discernment, teaching you the nature of human behavior, and accelerating you into a level of authority they can no longer reach. Nature itself was tutoring you, showing you precisely who to trust and who to keep at a sacred distance. Every scheme turned into education. Every trap became a masterclass in spiritual warfare. You were becoming dangerous in ways they couldn't calculate, and fear crept in the moment. Your silence evolved into something they couldn't command. They expected retaliation. They prepared debates, counterattacks, defenses, but you never gave them the fight they rehearsed for. Not because you were afraid, but because you understood true power doesn't announce itself. It doesn't argue, posture, or prove. Your calm inside their chaos spoke louder than any confrontation ever could, and that terrified them, because noise can distract, but silence forces reality to surface. In stillness, truth has nowhere to hide. Your composure became a mirror, and when they were forced to look, the reflection exposed fractures they didn't want to acknowledge. Maybe you weren't broken after all. Maybe the damage was never in you. You were developing restraint at levels most people never reach. You held every card, every receipt, and every piece of evidence capable of ending reputations and collapsing careers, and you chose not to use any of it. That kind of power, the kind that could destroy but can never be controlled or manipulated, that is the strength that separates chosen ones from everyone else. You realized something sacred during this season. Revenge was unnecessary because justice was already operating beyond human systems. You didn't need to fight because outcomes were already written before the first blow was ever thrown. Your assignment wasn't to prove yourself, it was to remain aligned while everything else rearranged itself. That alignment gave you a peace that looked like weakness to people who only recognize power as aggression, and if you recognize yourself in this message, amplify it, because other chosen ones need to hear this truth. They turned your pain into performance. Your struggle became entertainment. Jokes were made, stories distorted, wounds turned into punchlines for people who thought they were winning some invisible competition. You became the easy target, the one who didn't clap back, who absorbed hits and kept moving. So the performances continued, the crowds laughed, and for fleeting moments, those on stage felt powerful. Meanwhile, you were building an empire in realms they couldn't see. Every night they laughed, you leveled up. Every moment they wasted on mockery, you invested in mastery. Real power wasn't being built under spotlights, it was being forged in silence, in private hours, in unseen discipline where substance is born. You gathered wisdom while others chased likes. You built character while others curated images. You developed depth while others begged for approval, and substance always wins always. Performance needs an audience. Transformation only needs commitment. You were transforming while they were performing, and the distance between you grew wider every single day. Soon, those laughing would be watching in awe. Every moment of ridicule would become a receipt of regret. The reversal was approaching, so complete it might even surprise you. Not a haunting you orchestrated, but one born from conscience, from ego, from the realization that a divine opportunity was squandered through arrogance. They misjudged your softness, they mistook grace for fragility, kindness for inability to fight. They assumed sheltered, naive, untested. They had no idea about the wars you survived long before they ever entered the picture. Nights existed where you cried yourself to sleep and still raised ready for another brutal day. Betrayals that should have hardened you instead sharpened your wisdom. Losses that could have shattered your faith instead clarified what truly matters. You weren't formed in comfort, you were forged in chaos, tempered by heat, refined under pressure that destroys ordinary souls. Your gentleness is not weakness, it is mastery. Remaining soft after witnessing the worst of humanity requires a strength few will ever access. You were raised by storms, trained by tribulation, educated by adversity, and that is exactly why storms no longer frighten you. While others learned how to perform strength, you learned how to embody it. While they curate images and polished illusions, you were rebuilding yourself from ashes no one else wanted to touch. Hard didn't break you, hard is where you were born. Difficulty speaks your native language. Struggle has always been your training ground. Pain wasn't punishment, it was the forge. Every blow meant to weaken you only shaped you into something unbreakable. Every attack thrown your way, you carried it. Everything designed to destroy you became fuel, the disrespect, the betrayals, the losses, the isolation. You absorbed it all and refused to collapse. Fire creates substance, and you became substance tempered in flames that would have reduced others to nothing. And then came the turning point, the moment where everything began to shift permanently, because every attack revealed something profound, not about you, but about those launching them. Your resilience exposed their fragility. Your calm illuminated their inner chaos. Your self-control revealed their impulsiveness. You weren't just surviving assaults, you were reflecting true nature back to everyone watching. Some people needed you to break so they could feel whole, but you stayed whole, and that wholeness made their brokenness impossible to hide. Every scheme turned into a confession. Every lie exposed insecurity. Every attack became a silent scream from someone who didn't know who they were unless they were tearing someone else down. You became evidence of the emptiness certain people carry, and now the realization is setting in. You weren't just being attacked. You were revealing truth simply by existing in your power. Every weapon formed is turning. Every trap is catching the wrong person, because mirrors don't just reflect, they reverse, and the reversal is happening faster than anyone anticipated. What was meant to destroy you is destroying them. What was meant to bury you is burying their credibility. What was meant to silence you is silencing their influence. You became the mirror that showed people exactly what lived inside their hearts, and most couldn't survive what was reflected back. Your presence became unbearable to those living in pretense. Your peace became convicting to those addicted to chaos. Your growth became threatening to those committed to stagnation. The mirror shattered, but not your reflection. Their illusions, and the irony is poetic when you truly see it. Every scheme designed to stop you actually built your platform. Every whisper meant to erase you spread your name further. Every obstacle placed in your path became a step higher. Obsession with your downfall created permanent attachment to your rise, not as victors, but as witnesses. Living proof that what carries divine assignment cannot be stopped by human interference. Attempts to slow you down accelerated your timeline. Heaven saw every attack and responded with escalation. While secret plots formed in the shadows, divine positioning unfolded in plain sight. While they tried to surround your name with controversy, your story gained weight, authority, and unstoppable momentum. And when your rise became visible, everyone who opposed you had front-row seats with no ability to look away. Your elevation didn't just reveal your power, it exposed their powerlessness. The world saw that everything had been staked on your failure. Credibility was wagered on your collapse. Confidence was built on the assumption you wouldn't survive, and then you did publicly, unmistakably, beyond denial. Every trap became a staircase. Every obstacle became a stepping stone. Every closed door became a wall you climbed without losing momentum. Those who wanted to be remembered as the reason you failed became proof that you were destined to succeed regardless of resistance. Their hatred gave context to your journey. Their envy fueled your engine. Their sabotage triggered acceleration you never would have reached without opposition. You weren't winning in spite of them, you were winning because of them, and that truth is unraveling everything inside them. That realization matters because the final revelation shattered every assumption. While others exhausted themselves trying to outrun you, you were never even in their race. Competition for attention, validation, or position was never your assignment. You were moving on a completely different frequency, one they couldn't see, couldn't access, and could never stop. You were completing a divine assignment while others were trapped competing in human games. Different marathons, different rules, different finish lines, different judges deciding what victory even meant. While they sprinted for applause, you paced yourself for destiny. While they measured success in likes, visibility, and noise, you measured progress in peace, alignment, and obedience. Spotlights gave them significance, but you became light itself. That fundamental difference made their frustration inevitable. Your lack of reaction confused them. Your refusal to be thrown off course by shade unsettled them. Your absence of need to prove yourself enraged them. Because you weren't concerned with who was watching, you were concerned with staying faithful to the mission placed on your life. Before your first breath ever entered your lungs, being first across imaginary finish lines never mattered to you. Being obedient always did, and that obedience carried you exactly where you were meant to stand. You were never competition, you were revelation. Your presence exposed that all the striving, the comparing, the self-promotion was rooted in insecurity and fear. While they moved anxiously, you moved with clarity, conviction, and a peace that didn't require validation. They realized too late that you weren't interested in beating anyone. You were committed to fulfilling something eternal, something far beyond their frame of reference. While others counted days, you crossed thresholds. While they collected digital wins, you were counted worthy in unseen realms. While they built platforms, you were being planted. Pain was supposed to end your story. Betrayal was supposed to break you. Loss was supposed to make you quit. Instead, something dormant activated something powerful, something spiritually dangerous in the best possible way. The old version of you, the one who overextended grace and gave endless chances, burned away in fires lit by others. What emerged wasn't just stronger, it was undeniable. Survival is no longer your mode, and dismantling doesn't happen through revenge or bitterness, but through presence. Through power forged by walking through hell and choosing light anyway. Through a peace that cannot be faked, rehearsed, or performed. A peace that only comes from being dragged through every form of pain and walking away with your soul intact. You became a living contradiction to every expectation placed on you. Breaking was the objective. Evolution became the outcome. Every attack trained you. Every betrayal educated you. Every loss prepared you. You don't carry battle memories as baggage, you wear them as armor. Strength no longer needs an announcement. It enters rooms before you do. People feel it when you speak, and they feel it when you're silent. Your presence has weight now, gravity, the echo of wars not just survived, but conquered. Revenge was never needed for vindication. Healing was enough. Growth became the proof. Peace told the story. You became a soul with undeniable gravity, too heavy for shallow minds and too pure for manipulative hearts. Attacking you only upgraded you. Every hit leveled you up. Every scheme sharpened your edge. You're no longer someone to test, you're someone who demands respect without asking. Because chosen ones don't break, they weaponize pressure, and you just became the most dangerous force they've ever encountered. Not because you seek harm, but because harm can no longer touch you, and that invincibility delivers lessons no words ever could. You already know the attacks were never random, and if you're paying attention, You can feel it, their walls are closing in. So now the question becomes, what are we doing with this moment? That's why Destiny Engine exists. It generates personalized sequences designed to rewire betrayal into transcendence, transform isolation into sacred power, and convert their downfall into your rise. We take the Dark Elite's own declassified consciousness technology, the same systems built to program scarcity, competition, and control, and repurpose them for cooperative intelligence and sovereign power. You don't have to fight. You don't have to explain. You don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious realigns while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why it was created from the beginning, so everything meant to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade has already begun. Start your Destiny Engine for just $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Disposable, replaceable, forgettable, that's how you were treated, as if time was infinite, as if access to you would always exist, as if value could be recognized later after it had already been mishandled. You were taken for granted. Your light was dimmed because it made others uncomfortable, and then you were gone. That's where the real torment began for those who lost you, because the chase never ends. Every person who comes after you gets compared. Every new connection feels hollow, incomplete, lacking the depth you carried so effortlessly. The scrolling starts, the studying begins, the endless search for someone who brings what you brought, but your frequency cannot be duplicated. Your depth cannot be borrowed. Your light cannot be manufactured. You weren't a trend. You were truth, and truth either transforms people or haunts them forever. They chose haunting. Now they watch from a distance as you become everything they said you never would. Success isn't even the right word. You became the standard. Not romantically, but spiritually. The one that got away wasn't a person. It was access to evolution, and that loss never expires. You weren't just another connection, you were the lesson, divinely assigned to stretch them, mature them, elevate them. But domination was chosen over learning, competition over appreciation, diminishing over honoring, and now ghost chasing defines their existence, because nothing feels the same when authenticity is gone. Depth can't be taught, light can't be fake. Yours was earned through suffering, alignment, and a refinement they could never counterfeit. Processing this loss isn't simple. First comes denial, crediting luck, connections, rigged systems, anything to avoid admitting they misjudged your substance, because acknowledging your substance would expose their lack. Then comes bargaining, testing the waters, liking old posts, appearing in familiar spaces, pretending the war never happened, trying to slip back into your orbit. Now that ascension is visible, but discernment sees everything. Spiritual sight reads motives instantly. Fake humility can't disguise manipulation. Access is wanted, not reconciliation, and access is exactly what will never be granted again. Then anger erupts, accusations return. Claims that you changed, that success ruined you, that your elevation somehow victimized them. But the real rage comes from realizing they were never needed, that opposition never mattered, that you succeeded anyway without permission, without support, without anyone moving out of the way. You walked around them like pebbles on a giant's path. That kind of irrelevance cuts deeper than any insult. Eventually, some reach acceptance, but even acceptance burns, because acceptance means living with being wrong, betting against heaven's choice, fighting battles that were already lost before they began. It means watching you thrive knowing they contributed nothing, or worse, tried to stop it, and still, it happened. No revenge followed. No public humiliation was required. You never needed it. Peace came from beyond their reach. Joy was never tied to their suffering. Success wasn't measured against their failure. You moved in abundance, not scarcity, and that more than anything is the justice they can never escape. You never needed their loss to secure your win. You didn't require their downfall to rise. You could ascend while they remained irrelevant, and that is exactly what happened. What truly fractures people isn't watching you struggle. It's realizing you genuinely moved forward, not performative moving on. Not the kind where pages still get checked and growth is secretly measured against their stagnation, but real release, the kind where their name sparks nothing. No anger, no bitterness, no satisfaction in their decline, just clean indifference, because you reached altitudes where they no longer exist. They're still at ground level, throwing stones at someone cruising far above their range. Their attacks can't reach you now, not because you blocked them, but because you elevated beyond their capacity to touch you. Your peace never depended on their punishment, and that truth devastates those who assumed you'd need their collapse to feel whole. but your joy flows from a well they cannot poison. Your strength comes from a source they cannot drain. Your confidence rests on a foundation they cannot shake. Everything that produces peace within you exists beyond their influence, and that independence from their existence is the ultimate victory. You don't need them to lose. You don't need them to suffer. You don't need them at all, and that realization is the heaviest weight they now carry. Power couldn't stop you when you were unknown. Imagine trying now that your established breaking failed. When you were vulnerable, imagine attempting it now that you're fortified. Silencing didn't work when you were just finding your voice. Imagine trying now that you've learned to roar. Every attack survived trained you. Every trap revealed what to avoid. Every lie exposed who to trust. Weakening never occurred, only preparation, and now spiritual intelligence operates within you at levels most never access. Even now, unseen to natural eyes but ready to manifest, shifts are happening. Doors once slammed shut are opening wider than before. Connections once severed are being restored stronger. Opportunities once blocked are returning multiplied, because when humans interfere with divine plans, heaven doesn't merely override, it accelerates attacks, triggered escalation. Obstacles activated elevation. Resistance generated momentum that can no longer be stopped. What looked like delay was actually tension being loaded like a slingshot, and the further opposition pulled you back, the further forward you're about to launch. What unfolds in coming seasons will fracture assumptions, because this isn't the peak, it's the preview. Everything achieved so far is only the trailer, the main feature is approaching, and those who chose opposition over alignment will be forced to watch that awareness becomes its own prison cells built from regret, bars forged from bad decisions, while you walk freely in a life they'll never access. Strength alone doesn't make someone unbeatable. Strong people fall all the time. Talent alone isn't enough. Talent without purpose dissolves. Determination by itself fails too. Directionless drive goes nowhere. You are undefeated because you're aligned. Your gifts match your calling. Your timing matches heaven's schedule. Your movement matches divine rhythm. When alignment locks in, unstoppable becomes the default, not by your power, but by the force that flows through you. When you're in position, attempts came to knock you off balance, off course, out of alignment, but chosen ones carry an internal GPS that recalibrates automatically. You might be pushed temporarily, but your internal compass always returns you to true north. It's not conscious, it's coded into spiritual DNA. You can try running from purpose, but it hunts you down. You can try hiding from calling, but it finds you. Purpose isn't chosen, it chooses, and once it does, nothing makes it release its grip. The fatal miscalculation was assuming you were like everyone else who broke before you. Patterns existed. Systems, work, tactics had a history of success, but they didn't account for one thing: you weren't built to break. So they assumed the same tactics would work on you, but they didn't understand the difference ran all the way down to the foundation. Different materials, different principles, different sources. Hammers shatter glass, but you were never glass, you were diamond. The same pressure that destroys one substance only increases the value of another. They brought tools designed to break fragile things and swung them at something forged for eternity. The tools cracked. You didn't. Every moment they obsessed over your destruction was a moment stolen from their own construction. While they fixated on taking you down, they neglected building themselves up. Their identities became fused to opposing you. So when you rose anyway, there was nothing left for them. No backup plan. No alternate self, no substance of their own. They invested everything in the belief that you would fall, and when that story collapsed, everything built on it collapsed too. Your foundation was never circumstance, it was calling. Circumstances shift overnight, markets crash, relationships end. Doors close, but calling is eternal. It's woven into who you were before time began. They attacked your circumstances, thinking that would end you, not realizing circumstances are surface level beneath you, are roots sunk so deep into purpose that no storm could uproot you. They tried to shake a tree planted by divine hands, and divine planting doesn't come loose. What breaks them most is this realization. You never needed them to believe in you. Their minds fracture there. They thought their opinions carried weight. They assumed validation determined outcomes. They believed if enough people agreed you should fail, failure would follow, as if reality runs on majority vote, but chosen ones don't operate in democracies. You move under divine authority, where heaven has final say, and heaven said yes before anyone ever said no. Their rejection was irrelevant, their opposition meaningless, their attacks nothing more than background noise to symphonies they couldn't hear. You moved to rhythms they couldn't feel, followed instructions they couldn't intercept, and here's what stings even deeper: they had the option to be allies. They could have attached themselves to something real instead of exhausting themselves fighting something unstoppable, but they chose wrong, and those choices became permanent. Not because of grudges, but because chosen ones remember patterns. Not petty memory, protective memory. Wisdom that knows who belongs where you're going, and who proved they don't. They disqualified themselves, and that disqualification doesn't expire. What eats at them now is watching others benefit from what they rejected. The ones who supported you now walk in overflow. They enter rooms once locked. They receive opportunities most will never touch. They live breakthroughs the others only witness from a distance, and they know it could have been theirs. You offered front row access to something historic. They chose to be obstacles instead of allies. Now they're stuck in the back, straining to see what they could have experienced up close. That isn't punishment you delivered, it's consequence they authored, and now psychological collapse sets in. Cognitive dissonance rips their frameworks apart. They followed every rule they believed guaranteed power. Lies, traps, manipulation, games, but the outcome never arrived. You didn't crumble, you didn't disappear, you didn't quit, and because of that, their entire understanding of power is disintegrating. You won a game they didn't even know existed, and now they're trapped trying to comprehend how someone they labeled inferior surpassed them. Entirely a puzzle unsolvable at their current level of consciousness. The confusion deepened because you were never the kind of person they expected to win. You didn't play their games. You didn't borrow their tactics. You never opened their playbook. You won clean. You won honestly. You crossed the finish line with your integrity intact, and that shattered minds that believed cheating was the only way forward. They cut corners and still lost. You stayed aligned and still won. That single reality dismantled everything they thought they knew about how power works. Some of them will never recover from that internal collapse. They'll spend the rest of their lives trying to reverse engineer your rise, searching for logic where logic doesn't apply. Because the answer was never in strategy, it was in favor. And favor doesn't follow formulas. Their thinking was short-term, fast gratification, quick wins, temporary applause. Yours was generational. You were building something meant to outlive you. Every hardship you survived became a testament. Every battle you endured turned into a blueprint. Every trap you escaped became instruction. Your story was never just about you, it was preparation for everyone coming after you, everyone being targeted for carrying light, everyone under attack for being chosen. Your victory gives them hope. Your resilience gives them strength. Your testimony equips them with weapons. You weren't winning only for yourself, you were winning for your bloodline, your calling, your assignment. They tried to destroy someone whose influence stretches beyond a lifetime, and that's a battle no one wins. Even if they had slowed you temporarily, the force you carry would have found another vessel, because purpose doesn't depend on people, depend on purpose, and purpose always finds a way. They fought something eternal with temporary tools, something spiritual with physical tactics, something sent from heaven with strategies born in fear. It was a mismatch they didn't recognize until it was too late. Understand this now, chosen one. Their realization that you can't be beaten isn't the end, it's the beginning of real authority, the beginning of true influence, the beginning of your assignment manifesting in fullness. They needed to discover your unfeasibility so everyone watching would know. Their defeat became your testimony, their confusion became your confirmation, their loss became your lesson to teach. Everything meant for harm has become evidence of good. Every weapon turned against you is now a tool in your hands. Every attack you endured is now armor you wear. You are not here by accident, you are here on assignment, and that assignment just proved itself unbreakable. They tried to erase you, but heaven wrote you in permanently, powerfully, prophetically. You can't be beaten, that's not motivation. It's fact. The knowledge exists now, and they will never forget the cost of testing someone who was always meant to win. They learned the hard way because humility, the easy way, was never an option for them. They lacked wisdom, discernment, growth. So they learned through loss what they refused to learn through observation. That education came with a lifelong price, and while they keep paying it, you're only getting started. This is your beginning. What's coming next will make everything so far look like a warm-up. Get ready. Chosen one, the best is about to unfold, and watching is all anyone can do now. Not participation, just witnessing what happens when heaven fully backs someone whose victory was always guaranteed, whose success was always secured, whose elevation was always certain, because you cannot be beaten, and the revelation is only beginning to sink in that the story they told themselves to survive your rise was never strong enough to hold against reality. At first it felt distant to them, like denial could still protect their egos, like time might soften the truth, like distraction could dilute the impact. But revelations don't fade, they deepen, and the longer they sit with it, the heavier it becomes, because now patterns are lining up. Moments replay. Words spoken against you echo back with new meaning. Decisions once justified now feel reckless. The dots are connecting in ways they can't undo. They see it clearly now. They didn't miscalculate a moment. They misjudged a destiny. They weren't fighting a phase in your life, they were resisting an assignment, and that realization is settling into their bones. It's showing up in quiet moments, late at night, when distractions fade and truth speaks loudly. It's surfacing in conversations they avoid, in questions they can't answer, in a lingering sense that something irreversible happened and they were on the wrong side of it, because once revelation arrives, ignorance is no longer an option. You can't unsee alignment. You can't unknown favor. You can't pretend destiny was accidental. The weight of that awareness keeps increasing, not as punishment, but as consequence, and while they sit with the slow burn of realization, You're already moving forward, unburdened, untouched, focused on what's next. Their awakening to who you really are is delayed, but your expansion is right on time.